Before we begin, I would like to remind you that this session will be recorded. Both the presentation and the recording will be made available on the Scienza Malta website. A dedicated Q&A segment will follow the presentation, so you have the opportunity to either wait and ask your questions in this segment, or else you can use the chat function to ask the questions via the chat, in which my colleague Lutza will answer your questions. To minimize background noise, I kindly ask you to keep your microphones muted until you are invited to speak. So before we start, I would like to give you a brief on Scienza Malta. As you know, Scienza Malta is the national funding agency of Malta for research and innovation, and it is made up of a number of technical units. These units, there are five technical units, which are the Space Unit, the Policy and Strategy Unit, the Framework Program Unit, the Internationalization Unit, which me and Lutz are part of, and also the R&I Unit. As the Internationalization Unit, we follow international trends when it comes to research, development, and innovation through its representation in international and regional science diplomacy forums. We also strengthen international R&I collaboration amongst both local and foreign researchers and stakeholders. We also implement regional and international funding programs using national funds aimed towards the local R&I stakeholder community. This is in fact the internationalization funding portfolio, where on the left you can see our multilateral programs, while on the right you can see our bilateral programs. These include Horizon Europe opportunities as well as one-on-one bilateral opportunities such as Scienza Malta Tupitok or Sino Malta. Now, before we start going into Emeranet, I would like to give a brief on what is TRLs. TRLs basically means it's technology readiness level, which is a scale used to show how advanced the technology is from early stage idea to a fully developed solution in real world use. It ranges from TRL level 1, which means basic concept, to TRL level 9, which means proven and operational. In simple terms, it helps indicate whether a project is still in research or at prototype stage or even already close to market development. Now, going on to Emeranet, Emeranet is the Eranet for research and innovation on materials and battery technologies, supporting the European Green Deal. As an overview on this Eranet, in fact, is a strong European network of public funding organizations that have come all together to enhance coordination and alignment of national and regional R&I funding programs when it comes to materials and battery technologies. The aim of Emeranet is to strengthen the European research area in the field of advanced materials and contributing to the objectives of the European Green Deal. In fact, Emeranet had began in 2012 under FP7. It has evolved through Emeranet 2 between the periods of 2016 till 2022, and now it is at Emeranet 3, which is up to 2026. This is in fact the last year, and it is under Horizon 2020. It will continue as a coordination and support action as a CSA from the period of 2026 till the period of 2029. As a consortium, Emeranet is made up of 34 public funding organizations coming from 28 different countries. And as a Malta-based applicant, you are eligible for up to €300,000 per project. So these are the topics for this year's joint transnational call of Emeranet. This includes materials for energy storage and distribution systems, materials for energy conversion, innovative surfaces, coatings, and interfaces, also in the innovative functional materials with defined architectures, materials addressing environmental challenges, and also next generation materials for electronics. Now, it is good to keep in mind that each topic has its own specific TRL level that you would need to abide to. As a call, the Emeranet Joint 2026 is a two-stage call, which means it has the pre-proposal stage followed by the full proposal stage, and it involves national and transnational application. Again, Malta-based entities are eligible for up to €300,000 per project, and this project can take up to 36 months. As a consortium in a project, it would require to have at least 3 independent legal entities coming from 3 different countries participating in the call, and one of the partners must take up the role of project coordinator. It is good to know that, in fact, there is no upper limit when it comes to the consortium number of partners. In a consortium, self-funded partners are also allowed, and there is a number of eligibility criteria that you would need to abide as per Emmeranet's call text. So, first of all, before we go on to to these criteria, it's good to know that when I say project efforts, I'm referring to the efforts in person months for each of the partner. Um, Now, these criteria, the first criteria is that if a partner is responsible for more than 15% of the total project efforts and is found to be ineligible, the project will not be eligible. The total effort of one single applicant cannot exceed 60% of the total project efforts, and the total effort of applicants coming from one country cannot exceed 70% of the total project efforts. Now, keep in mind that all partners would require participant identification code EPIC number, including self-funded partners. For any topic-specific eligibility conditions, I would kindly ask you to check the Guide for Proposals 2026, which is found on the Emeranet website. When it comes to the evaluation of proposals, this is done by having a criteria. So there are 3 criteria: implementation, impact, and excellence. And each criteria has a maximum of 5 points for a total of a maximum score of 15. Now, there are 2 thresholds when it comes to the evaluation criteria. So the first threshold is that each criteria has to have a minimum of 3 out of 5 score. The other threshold is for the total maximum score, which is that you would need to have get at least 10 out of 15 in total. It's in fact good to know that projects should also maintain to have a balanced distribution of work, activities, and funding across countries. Now, this is a snapshot of the list of participating countries in the Emeranet call. As you can see, some countries specify in which topics they are they are part of, so it's not that all countries are available for all the topics. So keep that in mind when you're searching for partners. In the case of Malta, we are available to fund all of the topics under the Emeranet call of 2026. This table can also be found on the Emeranet website under Joint Call 2026. Now, going onto the national rules, when it comes to you as the Malta-based entity that you would need to follow, since you will be getting funds from Scienza Malta, as an eligible entity, the eligible entity must be registered in Malta or have an operating base in Malta, and these entities include limited liability companies, partnerships, non-profit making organizations, VOs, professional bodies, cooperatives, public entities, and even RKDOs. Now, going on to funding modalities, this depends on the nature of your entity. So if your entity is a non-economic entity, you would need to follow the non-state aid rules, and here you can request funding for up to 100%. On the other hand, if you're an economic entity, you have 2 possible funding routes: the de minimis route and then the General Block Exemption Regulation, the GBER route. So what are the de minimis and the GBER routes? So when it comes to economic entities, these are the 2 possibilities. Under de minimis, you can request for up to 75% of funding, but the remainder would need to be cashed from your, forked out from your end in cash, so it cannot be done in kind. Under de minimis, it's good to know that there is a cap of 300,000 euros over a rolling basis of 3 years. On the other hand, under GBER, the requested funding can be made up to 70%. Again, here the remainder must be forked out from your end in cash. Under GBER, there's 2 top-ups to get the maximum amount. So first of all, there's the 25% automatic aid intensity. Then there's a small top-up depending on your entity size. So if you're a small entity, you get plus 20%. If you're a medium entity, you get another 10% instead. And if you're a large entity, you do not get a top-up here. There's also a top-up of 25% if your project will prioritize effective collaboration and wide dissemination. This is usually still a requirement from the ERANET itself, so usually through Jibber you would still get this top-up as well. Eligible costs when it comes to you as the Malta-based entity. So here you can personnel costs, specialized equipment and consumables, subcontracting, costs of IP and knowledge transfer activities, travel and subsistence, and also overheads and other operating expenses. Going into personnel, so this is the same for all funding routes. Here you would need to note that project management is kept for up to 10% of the total project value. Students can also be included in personnel, but they need to be accompanied by a researcher, and their personnel would be around 6,000 to 8,000 euros per annum. Each personnel must have a maximum of 1,720 hours per year. So obviously, depending on the length of your project, you need to keep in mind this maximum. And also, finally, we have hourly rates specified in our national rules, which in fact on the right, you can see a snapshot of these hourly rates. It's also good to know that when it comes to the roles of management and senior researchers, there's a maximum of 2 personnel for each per project. Now going into equipment and consumables, if you're a non-economic entity or under the de minimis route, you would need to note that you're eligible for the cost to purchase lease specialized equipment, and the cost of research consumables should not exceed 30% of the project value. On the other hand, for Jibber, the cost of specialized equipment is only eligible if the lifetime of the equipment is equal to the lifetime of the project. If this is not the case, the depreciation cost of specialized equipment for the extent and period used for the project can be claimed. This obviously needs to be verified by a certified public accountant. Again, here when it comes to research consumables, there is a capping of 30% of the total project value. Now, subcontracting, it's the same for all funding routes. Here you have a capping of up to 25% of the project value, and it must follow fair procurement procedures. It is best to discuss with us if you have any subcontracting plan to see if they are eligible or not. Now, IP and knowledge transfer activities, again, this is the same for all funding routes. This is the cost of knowledge transfer activities and patents bought or licensed from outside sources, again, at arm's length conditions. It is also best to discuss this with us, specifically me and my colleagues as the call manager at the application stage. Now, travel and subsistence is also eligible, as we said, if you're going through the non-economic or de minimis route. Here you can claim economy flights and public transports, the most economic solutions, and also per diems for up to 14 days in a row. When it comes to the attendance of consortium meetings, this is for up to 2 persons per meeting, while when it comes to international conferences, it is also up to 2 persons to attend one conference every 6 months. With regards to Jibber, travel costs are not eligible. Finally, we have the overheads and other operating expenses. This is the same for all funding routes. So here, these are the costs that are incurred directly as a result of the project, and these will be covered automatically at a 20% of the direct eligible costs claimed. This is a list of the ineligible costs. So these costs are ineligible and have to be either covered through the overheads or they cannot be concluded in the project. So first of all, expenses related to loan and interests, expenses which are recoverable through other funding mechanisms, repurchase of the same equipment originally procured through other funding mechanisms, purchase or leasing of equipment and services from partners or their subsidiaries, standard office equipment, personnel hours for traveling, and any other costs that are not listed as eligible costs in the national rules. Again, these costs should not be included because it could end up that your application becomes ineligible. Now, going into the application process at a national level, so what you would need to do and what you need to submit to us. First of all, you would need to submit the national application form and relevant annexes via email to eusubmissions.censamalta@gov.mt by 12th of May 2026 before midnight. The project coordinator should submit the pre-proposal to the Meranet via the online submission tool on behalf of all the other partners, and this should be done on the same date by 12th May 2026, but till noon. Following this, Scienza Malta will perform a number of administrative checks on the documents provided from your end, and if all the partners are found to be eligible by their respective funding agency, as well as the proposal being eligible from the Meranet side, the proposal will then be evaluated and ranked. As a submission procedure at this stage, at stage 1, the coordinator would need to create an account on the online submission tool that Meranet provides. Then, following this, the coordinator adds the partners to the consortium, and each partner would need to input their own data and need to validate their participation. Following this, each partner would need to include an indicative budget when it comes to category budgets, but it's good to know that the total cannot increase. And lastly, there is, when it comes to the national levels, you would need to, at this stage, at stage 1, you would need to present us with a number of documents and annexes as per the national rules. Now, these documents at this stage, at the pre-proposal stage, are the following. So the ones you can see in the table below. First of all, the national application form, so irrelevant of the funding route, you would need to fill and submit a signed national application form. Now, if you're a public entity, you would need to submit to us the annex related to public entities. The same can be said for Arcadio, so you would need to submit the annex related to Arcadio. All funding routes, all partners in each funding route would need to submit to us the CV of the PI and any researcher that is known at this stage as well. And lastly, if you're from taking an economic entity and taking the route of de minimis or GBER, you would need to submit to us the memorandum and articles of association or any other respective constitutive document. Now, this is stage 2, so this is the when we reach the full proposal submission. This would be the stage following if your proposal is invited to the next stage. Here, what happens is that Meranet will send the full proposal application template to the coordinators. Here, each partner is required to indicate their detailed budget, so it's not no longer indicative. Again, the coordinator is tasked with submitting the full proposal on behalf of all the partners, and as the Malta-based entity, you would need to submit further documents to us at this stage as well. So, at the full proposal stage, all funding routes would need to submit the budget breakdown form. If you're going through the de minimis route, you would need to submit the de minimis form. On the other hand, if you're going through the GBER route, you would need to submit two forms. So there's the enterprise size declaration form and undertaking in difficulty, as well as the declaration for augmented rate intensity. And lastly, if you're again an economic entity, you would need to submit to us the audited financial statements of the last 3 years. Now, if you're a startup that do not have the financial statements available, you can provide us with the financial projections for the next 3 years and signed by an auditor. When it comes to the documents, where you can find them, so when it comes to the national application form and the national rules, they can be found on the Meranet webpage. So you go onto the Scienza Malta website, you go onto funding schemes, open funding schemes, and then you press on the Meranet tab. On the other hand, all the relevant annexes that we went through can be found in the resource page of Scienza Malta. Now, the timeline of the call. So, as we said, the proposal deadline will be 12th of May 2026. Following this, there will be a round of national eligibility checks and also central eligibility checks done by Meranet, and then there will be the pre-proposal evaluation. Around the end of September, it is expected that the evaluations will be finished and a ranking list will be made, and from this ranking list, a number of proposals will be invited to second stage, to the full proposal stage. The full proposal stage has a deadline on as well already planned on the 18th of November of 2026. And here, following this deadline, there will be another round of eligibility checks and also another round of evaluation. At the end, another ranking list is made, and if your proposal ranks highly and is selected for award, um, the gap phase would commence. So it is the grant agreement preparation phase where you would need to stay in contact with us for the grant agreement drafting, as well as in contact with the consortium partners to draft the consortium agreement. Um, Projects aim to start early February till May of 2027. Now, to get connected with partners, what you can do. So first of all, Emeranet provides you with a partnering search tool that can help you find project partners and also build a consortium. This is the process how it works. So first, you would need to register to this tool to submit a partner offer or even a partner search. By creating a profile, you would need to add your contact details, a brief description of your organization, and the relevant keywords and your expertise related to the six MLNet topics. Each post can cover up to 3 topics, so more topics would require separate posts. Now, you would have 2 opportunities when it comes to posting. You have the partner offer and the partner search. Through the partner offer, you are offering your expertise and seek collaboration. So you're putting yourself out there, and people who are searching for partners can contact you. On the other hand, it can work the other way around. So partner search is when you or your consortium have already a project idea and you are looking to add additional partners. At the end, you can also browse existing posts by searching through the lists of partner offers and the partner requests. The partner search is also on the Emeranet website. So please make sure to visit both the Emeranet website and also the Scienza Malta website. These are some important links that you would need to check. I've included them in this presentation because I will be sending you the presentation following this session, so you would have all the links and all the presentation slides as well at hand. Contact details are as follows. So there's my email and also the general inbox. Um, Please feel free to reach out. I will be sending you all the presentation afterwards, and as well we will be putting this info session recording on YouTube as well for you to reference afterwards as well. Thank you for joining, and I hope you found the session insightful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.